Right. Well, you can't do that just when I'm going live. All right, welcome back to the final part of today's Paradox live stream. It's so weird saying live stream, but it's actually what it's called. Oh. With me here, I have two people from the Paradox development studio Runemaster team. We have Sarah, being the senior lore developer, and Boel being a game writer.
Indeed.
Right, yeah! It's two titles to remember, it's really hard. So, you have been working on the Runemaster project for some time. And I know Boel got brought in around the start. Sarah, you've been with us since the start too, right?
Yes, I've been with Paradox since 2010, so...
That's quite some time.
Yeah, it is. And Boel, you started in...
2008, January, I think, yeah.
So we are two dinosaurs, according to...
we prefer the term veterans.
Yeah, I know. I celebrated my 2-year day just a few days ago, but I realized that everyone's a lot older than me anyways.
Not everyone.
Alright, so you've been with us from the start. What was kind of the idea of doing Runemaster? Paradox Development Studio, grand strategy, they're super core type of games. RPGs, sure, kind of share some aspects with them, but it's really different. What's the idea of doing an RPG?
First of all, Crusader Kings 2 is sort of a strategy RPG.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
It's actually not grand strategy if you ask Henrik.
Oh, yeah, so, I've seen discussions about this. I accidentally got into one of them, and it was really odd trying to find the definition. But still, it's far away from what we've done.
Runemaster is something different, yes.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And, well, why we started it? Is that the question, or... could you repeat it, please?
So what was kind of the inception? What was the birth of Runemaster? Where did it come from?
Well, it started with Johan being really, what do you say?
Passionate about it?
Yeah, exactly. He plays a lot of RPGs. I think most of us play RPGs and first-person shooters and grand strategy and different strategy, etc. So we know our genres and we know our strength. And after Johan had nagged enough about it, we decided to make one. And it's, CK2, strategy RPG, it has a lot of American storytelling, and we realized that this is our selling point. This is something we know how to do. And
yeah, we usually talk about what the Paradox Development Studio game is, and it's about having the freedom to, decide what to do yourself.
Your own story,
yeah,
so to speak.
And so...
Well, that fits with the lore of
having an open world, open random world.
Yeah.
The quests are randomized, so you don't know in what quest you will encounter.
Where you will encounter them.
And how your character develops these character traits. That are similarities, even though it's a completely different genre. So.
And that was a core pillar from the start of the game, is that the infinite replayability, the normal sandboxy feeling there, because I know this is something that Paradox games really strive towards, is that you should always be able to play the game
infinite
again.
Sounds a bit scaring, but
not infinite, but very, very replayable.
Yeah.
And many RPGs aren't, but our take of the RPG seems to be that it's you make your own story, which is kind of a buzzword in some sense, but from all that I've read and seen, it actually seems to be like this.
Yes,
yeah.
Scary enough, yeah.
For example, Boel is our game writer for the humans, and then we have different game writers for each of the other races as well. So the voices for each of the races, each of the quests will be very different. So you won't play the same quest as a human at the start as you would a dwarf, for example. So that's one part of the replayability. You can start as any of the different races, and well, it will be a different experience.
Yeah, and hopefully, that's the plan. Even if you play the same race over and over again, it should be different enough. Different quests, different choices, different encounters.
Right. So you had this very stable start of having the Norse mythology. It's a lot of information. There are the sagas and all of that stuff you can read, but still, I can imagine that's not remotely enough to even start creating a game world, because there are so many different aspects of a game world that need to be filled into this. So how do you go about creating the world of the Aesir? It's what, 6 different dimensions, landscapes, worlds.
Worlds.
Yeah.
So
I have no idea. How
there are actually 9 worlds, but we chose 6 of them for Runemaster.
2 of them are, Asgard is nice and all, but
it's a bit limited.
Yeah, exactly. It's only the gods up there.
Yeah.
So, but well, we started with. I started as the researcher for it. I didn't gain my title until I think when you guys arrived. So I plowed through internet. I read every page on Wikipedia about this. I found weird stuff everywhere. And
You have so many stacks of books up in your office, so it's insane.
We got a lot of information from this, and when I had read all this, I compiled a database where I put links to different web pages and books and stuff that I thought was interesting, and then I gave it to Boal.
And I totally freaked. I mean, this was like my first day as a game writer, and it was just, I was like, this is never ending. It's basically she rebuilt Wikipedia, but just based on Norse mythology. It was like getting hit on the head with a brick of, I don't know.
Yeah, that book could.
Yeah, I basically just, time out and just went out to breathe after she showed me the document.
That's an impressive reaction.
Yeah, very mature. But I don't know. I mean, yes, she has done a ton of research. We all have, and we read a lot. But I don't think it's that hard to convert Norse mythology to a game, because it sort of has all the elements. I mean, it has the characters, the worlds, the backstabbing, intrigue, I mean, they're insane, and they're not like high maintenance gods that, don't talk to the different races or anything. They're sort of like walking among the people or the dwarves, and, they have good sides and bad sides. They're vindictive, or they're, want to just have a cup of mead. So they're very... I don't know, that sort of separates Norse mythology from a lot of others. They're not as high maintenance as Greek gods that usually, keep their distance. Well, not always, but
in some sense.
Yeah, and we have Midgard, which is very much based on could we say Dalarna, for example, a part of Sweden that is pretty mountainy and a lot of pine forest and stuff like that. And then we have Jotunheim, which is practically based on Lapland, which is even farther north. So we got a lot of inspiration from Sweden and Scandinavia.
For the graphic and art style.
Yeah, and then we have Svartalfheim, and Stockholm has its subway.
All right,
and
so,
it's really
but I mean, so there's a lot of, as you mentioned, the gods and the mythology in general is very vibrant. It has a lot of different aspects, but there's also very many different approaches you can go to it, because as we've seen, there's been several approaches to Norse mythology in the past, and some are grimdark, some are super colorful, like the series that I can't remember now, the Thor cartoon series, that's like very playful and kind of like giddy. How did you choose how you wanted to look at it?
Well, I think it's different because most of what I've read or seen or played based on Norse mythology, they haven't really based it on Norse. I mean, they picked and chose a few tiny bits that they thought were, awesome or fun.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that. But once you actually start to sort of recreate the entire Norse mythology, you have a lot, almost for granted. Sort of like looking at an era from history, or, it's...
Yeah.
There
are a lot of holes in it as well, but it's rather easy to meet them together.
So this is actually, you almost would dare say, a pretty accurate representation of something that would be plausible as how do you imagine it. I mean, of course, everyone that kind of practiced Norse mythology wouldn't be under the same impression of what it was, but the whole broad picture is captured in a more sensical, non-Hollywoodish way.
Yeah, but then,
hopefully, yes.
But then we had to invent a lot of stuff. I mean, we know that people believed in trolls, for example, but we have no idea how they lived, what they ate, what they thought about different things, what their traditions were, what they believed in, etc. And we have done a massive job of creating this. So trolls and dark elves and every race in Runemaster has its own background, its own story that we have created. Sometimes with a lot of help from Norse mythology, but often just what we thought would fit.
So some parts, like humans and Midgard, is of course a bit easier, but also harder, because you have more of a foundation of mythology, but also, I mean, the language, we won't go, you know, very high fantasy, how do you say, we're keeping it fairly casual and modern in the language. I mean, like people, like more talk, you know, the dialogues are very relaxed. Because, I mean, even back then, I don't think people really talk with strung up voices, you know, very pretentious.
Yeah,
just
definitely not. I mean, if they were pagans, I can imagine they were very casual and easily approachable in some sense.
Yes, besides if you insult the gods, because then you have to pay and be sacrificed, of course.
All right, so we touched a lot upon the story. Could you give us kind of this basic run through? What is the story of Runemaster? What are you going through?
Oh, that's my question.
Yes. I think you'll take this.
You start out in a world not really knowing what has happened. People are mourning something. It's such a strong feeling that you feel like you have to get out in the world and, well, realize what this is. And you walk through, let's say Midgard. I'm very much Midgard right now as a human. And talk to people, try to make stuff for them so they will tell you more, or at least give you directions to someone that might know something more. And after a while you will find someone that will tell you that a god has died.
Don't reveal too much.
Oh,
no, I'm kidding.
So a god has died, and this has caused this great mourning. And because of this god, the world is ending. And here's your big choice. Will you help the world get destroyed, but perhaps bring a new world into life? Or will you try to stop it, postpone it, if that's the only choice you have? So, well, that's
and it's all revolving around Thor and Loki, which are very well known now, thanks to a lot of other franchises, but might be a bit differently depicted in Runemaster, I can imagine.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that they're very, how do you say, absent in one way from the game, because I mean, as the hero, you're moving through the world, maybe encountering a lot of other gods, and you know, other persons, but you're not really meeting Thor and Loki until very late in the game. But on the other hand, on your journey to them, you will, you know, have to decide if you know, for change or stability, and that's sort of, you know, because we usually think Ragnarök, the end of the world, that must be a bad thing, but for the races that are oppressed or maybe don't have, you know, enough food for the day or in whatnot, you know, that
the gods picked their favorites, as far as I'm aware, and it was kind of an uneven society.
Yes, they were horribly, you know, they definitely took side, most of them.
Yeah, Odin, in the creation myths, Odin created the first two humans from, I think it was from wood,
driftwood, right?
Yeah, and because they were created by a god, they are more favored by the gods, unlike the other races who were mostly created by Ymir, who was the giant that was then killed, and his parts were...
This is...
Norse mythology.
The creation of the world is just so weird.
Yeah, I know, I've read bits and pieces of it, it's weird.
But it's like how the dwarves surfaced. It was like, they just surfaced in his body like maggots in flesh. You could just go like,
yeah.
You know, that's still, not how I consider dwarves.
Still, the gods favored the dwarves, and they even put 4 dwarves to hold up the 4 corners of the world, and that's the east, west, north, and south.
Yeah, and the sky is, by the way, the skull of Ymir. Yeah. If you didn't know.
It's a very disproportionate body, I have to say. If the entire world is the rest of his body...
When he was killed in the blood, all the other giants, besides 2, I think, drowned in the flood, so he was a really big giant.
That was a giant giant.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Would be cool to see as a unit in the game.
I wouldn't bet on it, sorry.
Alright, you touched upon the fact that you have to choose between stability and change. Is this something that's ever fluctuating in the game, or do you set this direction initially, or is that kind of this everlasting question mark until the final aspect of the game where you actually have to decide?
It's a slider.
It's a slider! Yeah, well, you go through it all the way through the game. I mean, we haven't you know, there is still work in progress.
Yeah, it's an alpha.
But it's you know, you're confronted with choices, but you're also confronted with people that claim. I mean, some will claim that, you know, if Ragnarök comes, the world will end and everybody will die, and this is horrible. And you will have these other people that will say, no, this will be paradise on earth. So it's basically like hearing politicians talk. You know, you can't research to find out who's telling the truth.
Do you always know what you're going for? I mean, this is going into specifics, but I find it really interesting. And I mean, since, say, the Dark Elves, they are more inclined to change, I can imagine, in some directions. But as a player, do you always know that you would be supporting change, or in their sense, would it be stability? I mean, it's always an obvious choice, or do the players have to come in with critical thinking, reading between the rows, stuff like that?
I think it's a mix.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure if we have decided exactly how it would work yet. It would be interesting to not have the player know, but then go into the menu and see as, oh, right, I'm more towards Loki now. Oh, fun!
Yeah,
so we'll see.
We keep discussing on what should be visible and what should be behind the scenes all the time. Like, for example, character traits. We work with a character trait system, sort of loosely based on the CK2.
Yeah, the 8
system.
different things you can go into.
But I mean, in the answers, should it be visible that you're actually choosing to supporting this trait, or will you only figure that out after a quest when you realize that sliders have moved?
So it could be like in Mass Effect, where there's the Paragon and the red, whatever that means.
But that's very obvious.
Yeah,
you know,
that's very obvious, and it's very, you know, I know what decision I'm making.
I like Mass Effect. It's not
it's a great game, one of my favorites.
But yeah, that was very much in your face. Like, you did this, so now you get this choice.
And that might not be
it's tricky.
I can imagine it's super
balance.
tricky. It's a very interesting issue, and it plays into gameplay a lot.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned, you have researched a lot. And since it's a game-based thing, I mean, it's not your own story in that sense. There's already a lot of gods, weapons, epic items, stuff like that. Will you see a lot of this in the game, or will you largely play your own stories? Like, am I always going to walk around and have this item that I recognize, or are they going to be more rare aspects that just pop into the game here and there?
Well, good question. We have a lot of unique objects already scripted, but we haven't really used them yet. So I want to have epic quests where you will get this after having played through it, and Odin himself might give you a replica of Gugnir or something. It would be awesome.
Well, the real thing.
Would he
Wait, isn't Gugnir the daughter of Loki or something like that too?
No, that's Hel.
Oh, I'm so confused. He has so many kids that everyone seems to.
Hel, Fenrir, Jörmungandr, Narfi, and Nari. So, and I might have possibly missed a couple. Sleipnir as well. Yeah, right.
Yeah, the Sleipnir was the one I was thinking about.
That's so weird.
That's a horse.
That's sorry. Sorry, I'm confused.
Which is the children of Loki, which is just weird.
Isn't Loki the horse's mother, though, or something absurd like that?
Yeah, of course he is.
That story is amazing. But
it's like what's his name? The one that guards the bridge. That he was
Heimdall.
born. He was born from 9 virgins.
Yes.
And you go like, wait.
What?
What? He
Wait,
was
what?
born from 9 virgins. Okay.
Alright, so what I'm kind of getting out of this is that there will be appearances of things that you will largely recognize, but the story is not revolving around things that you necessarily have to recognize. It's more of a broader universe with you have added more things, because I'm hearing a lot of this that you have taken kind of the artistic freedom to add more things to this universe to make it more vibrant, make it more than, okay, I'm going through the sagas and I'm doing everything I've read about.
We have to do that, because if you would base it only about the things that is in the sagas, it would be a rather short game.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You have to sort of break loose, but I mean, even if it's like a quest, as a short quest on the old, it's actually based on historical, but combined with myth, because he sacrificed his sons to get a long life. It's a very short quest, but it's just, that's based on history, of course, but you encounter his dead spirit, which is not very historical, of course. And I mean, that's sort of like creating your own little myth. But no, I don't believe he haunted the lands for real.
Just a bit. So, Bo, this is a question mostly towards you, since you do write the quests for the game. How, like, largely, widely does the quest affect the game process in general? How much, if you do a decisive quest, how much does this change, lock away, open up? Is this actually really going to define the experience, or is it more vague hints towards directions and sliders?
Sorry, I'm not sure I followed, but I can give it a try. So some quests only affect mostly character traits or maybe change in stability. Other ones may give clues for the main, or not main, but for the, how do you say, the theme of the game. And other ones may even unlock, different options in these crucial points where you meet, the gods, or even in the end.
Yeah.
So you don't. Every quest will matter, but you as a gamer might not know how much each quest will matter. So you better take all your choices seriously.
Yes. I like this. It's nice, because then you don't know when you're doing like this. Okay, I'm killing 3 wolves quest. It might matter a lot, so it always keeps the player invested.
I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah, we try to avoid kill 3 wolves, but
I hope there's at least one quest to kill at least X amount of boars or wolves.
We have a couple, but they're not just about killing. It's a bit more story to it, hopefully.
Well, cool stuff. I mean, I can imagine it's a huge challenge to write just this wide amount of quests for the game and just keep it ever changing.
It is. We'll keep going and see what happens. Yeah.
All right. So on the topic of multiple things, how many roughly, maybe, but if you can be exact, that'd be cool too. How many endings are there? Are we talking about just one? Or,
sorry, we should have warned you. We can't talk about the end.
We can't talk about the end. Ooh, okay.
Too soon.
Too soon, but there will be an ending.
Yes.
Or will there? Interesting. All right. Not talking about things says enough too. So that's nice. All right. So I was actually gonna have this nice layer of being like, on the topic of endings, let's end this. But do you guys have any final notes? Anything you want to share with the people watching, the Runemaster fans? Any hints or tips for the future? Things you can talk about?
I don't know. Now we talked a lot about quest, of course, because we work with
that's what
stories
you work with,
and
so
the
that's
quests,
what you're here for.
But I mean, later on we can dwell more in, the battles and the exploration parts and the randomized world and everything.
Yeah, but then we might have to send a programmer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then we're gonna send the person that has that expertise. So that was your final notes. All right. Thanks a lot for.
Not very sexy.
It was good. I am happy. Thanks a lot for being here today. It was really interesting hearing your thoughts on the game and kind of where it is, because I'm at least 35% more hyped to play it now. Which, not knowing my starting percentage, it might be a lot or not much. It's been really nice having you. For the people that watch, as always, this is going to be the end of Paradox Live for today, but we're going to be back next week, the same time, the same concept. We're going to have people in here talk about interesting games, interesting stuff. We'd love to hear your feedback on the show's format, on the questions we're asking, the things we're talking about, anything. We love to hear, because our wonderful producer Matt, the guy in the small screen in the corner there, the Dutch guy, wants to, of course, continue revising the process of the stream and how we're doing it, because the end result we're hoping for is to get closer to you guys there on the other side of the screen, which of course implies that we need to listen to you too. So yeah, just keep that in mind. If there's just anything you think about, we want to hear it. And yeah, that will be it. It was a joy talking to you today. It was a joy talking to you too, and everyone else that was here. So that will be all. Cheers.